while I was on day shift, it was a regular practice of mine to be around the high school in the morning and as well as during the lunch hour at Cahill. And one of the observations I had is the more interaction I had with students, the better. On the flip side was the fact that the more time I spent during the lunch hour at Cahill, the more the groups dispersed. And oftentimes they, instead of being all together, would go off in 5 different directions. So it actually added a little more challenge to it because of the fact that they were leaving a central location. I did make a few arrests for possession of marijuana, tobacco type citations. But overall, the activity, the perception has always been that there's a lot of drug activity at Cahill. My 10 years, 11 years of experience monitoring it, I didn't find that it was necessarily an everyday occurrence because they had the option of leaving Cahill, driving off after school, before they come to school in the morning, and making the drug transaction in their car. Or going out of Whitefish Bay, if I happen to be following the car, and doing it elsewhere. So having somebody monitor Cahill, as well as the immediate neighborhood, will be a big role for a school resource officer, and a vital role from the standpoint of interacting with the students and getting to know the different students and getting sometimes information, not necessarily looking to make an arrest, but finding out maybe somebody's having a problem.
That we received was, what has our police chief and police department learned from Maddie Kiefer's her death and other arrests of Whitefish Bay residents in regards to drug use or drug abuse within our community?
Well, I think it's been, mentioned a couple times previously. I don't think we learned a lot new about the use and abuse of drugs in the community. Earlier, in one of the questions, somebody alluded to the fact that they indicated that drugs had been dealt or used in the Cahill area for over 30 years. We have learned somewhat, as Lieutenant Stefanski indicated, that in the last 5 years, that some new drugs, the prescription drugs, whatever, are being abused and used more than they had been in the past. I think what we did learn, that was reinforced, is the importance and the need for the police department and the schools and the parents and the students to work and identify ways to work even closer than we have in the past, because that's the only way we're going to identify what's occurring and when it's occurring and where it's occurring and who's doing it and being able to do something about it.
At our last meeting, parents brought up the fact that there are other known drug houses / dealers in the village, and we're wondering if you're aware of this.
We are aware of a number of suspected young adults selling drugs, and we continue to investigate those individuals. Just like we have done in my entire career, we've had investigations ongoing. Oftentimes, they don't turn out the way we would like, with being able to get a search warrant or make an arrest, and the individual seems to move on, or something else changes, maybe gets arrested for something else. But we are aware of a number of different individuals, and we continue to investigate those individuals.
Also, I'd like to point out, and I won't call it misuse of the term drug house. What we don't have in the community are homes that are rented or occupied by people with the primary purpose of the renter of dealing drugs. every person that Lieutenant Stefanski mentioned that we're aware of who might be involved in drugs lives in a residence with one or more parents in the community. So they are not in control of the residence, they are there with the parents, and that presents other issues as far as dealing with these locations.
The next question is, can you give us specifics as to what residents or students can do to report any suspicious drug or alcohol activity within the schools or within our community?
I'll start with the students, because in the school setting, the students have additional resources available, and if they have information about a certain drug activity, they certainly have the guidance counselors they can talk to, and the other school staff, and with the relationship between the police department and the school administration, that information is shared. The students can also contact the police department as to speak to one of the detectives, and hopefully in the near future, if our grant is approved and if our school resource officers put in place, hopefully that will be another more detailed than possible, license numbers, a description of people, description of vehicles, and sharing that with the police department. Now that being said, I think what people have to understand is some of the constraints that we operate under. And understand the extent of our authority to either stop people or to stop vehicles. And I guess I'd like to ask the district attorney to perhaps address that part of it.